Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so as you can tell, from the introduction, I'm not a very technical person, but I love merging worlds. And I think that's where the most power truly is, and just understanding how each of those worlds work in order to see the connections and move forward. So today I'm here to talk to you about a little bit of my story and then the Orlando story of entrepreneurship as well as intrapreneurship. So how companies internally innovate and the kind of ways that both for starting a company or keeping a company going kind of work, or at least from my perspective. All right. So first I wanted to let you guys know kind of my background and my own entrepreneurial journey that then became more an intrapreneurial journey. So here we go. So I'm from Venezuela. I moved to Miami when I was in middle school, and so a huge part of my life and the reason that I'm pretty much doing what I'm doing is because once I moved from Venezuela to the United States, I realized that I knew a lot of people with a lot of talent, a lot of grit, and all of the buzzwords and criteria for being a good entrepreneur or successful person or innovator, you name it. But then when I came to the United States, I realized that it was the system that was allowing people with a merit-based, hello. All right, now everyone can hear me. Like I was saying, moving from Venezuela, what I realized it was the system of the United States and that ecosystem we all talk about that allowed people by merit to actually become more successful, to gain customers, to figure out if they could actually pursue something. Versus when I looked back at my friends and family in Venezuela, that wasn't really possible. So if you were already born into a wealthy family or that kind of thing is extremely difficult, was the exception, not the rule. So that really inspired me to understand why. Why is that? Why don't we have that everywhere? So, like I said, moved to Florida and went to UCF. Go Knights! In the pursuit of trying to figure out, why is this and how does it work? What does it mean to have economic development? How do we help empower people so they themselves have the skill sets that no matter what environment they're in, what kind of government is in place, they themselves can make success on their own. They can figure out what the resources are and they can make something happen. So at UCF, I studied international global studies and economics, went around a bit of the world, worked with the Department of State in the economic and political section, kind of figuring out how do I actually pursue this international economic development kind of view, or how do we even empower people? What does that mean? So after I spent some time in France, and then I did an internship and worked at the Institute of International Education in DC, then in the US Embassy in Chile. And when I started working more with the economic section, I realized that's where a lot of these worlds merge and combine. And if we're able to actually merge them, then how much more reach would we have and how much more expertise and access would be available? So when I came back to UCF, I decided to start studying economics a little bit more and truly figuring out how to, like I said before, build that platform to help empower people to do whatever they would like. So from then, I realized, okay, this is the path that I want to go. I was thinking, I'll become a diplomat, go the NGO nonprofit route. That's how you help people. And so at the London School of Economics, mainly studied why are countries rich, why they're poor, did microfinancing in Ghana, did a couple of different consulting and projects, and just started seeing how the economic model of that world, the nonprofit and NGO, really wasn't set up for sustainability, meaning they were reliant on a lot of volatile funding like grants, like philanthropy, like donors, that if there's a downturn or the donor just decided, hey, this year instead of fintech, I want to focus on education. For middle school girls, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that means that the program that you had started is now gone. And so at times I was like, sometimes I feel like it's doing more harm than good. When you're putting something out there, taking it away, it's not really building it up by the demand that's there. So after that, I didn't quite know what to do. it was really interesting because I had always had this vision, this idea of what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And then to find out, I had an experience while I was in Ghana that pretty much made me realize that if you start messing with people's economics models, then it shuts everything else down. So I was in Ghana and we were doing consulting for a nonprofit that was doing microfinancing. And we realized that they were bringing in international people in order to teach the locals just basic finances. It wasn't anything too complicated. And so what we proposed was, okay, so why don't we start training some of the locals? Turns out that would mess with their economic model because the way that they made money and survived was by having international people pay to have this experience, and then they feel like they had some kind of impact and then they go away. So our suggestion was, well, what if you start including some locals training locals so that since they understand how the community works, who the leaders are and all of that, and so that they can propose more sustainable solutions. But that wouldn't work because it's messing with their economic model. That means they're not bringing international people in. So I was like, all right, there has to be a better way. This cannot just be it. So I decided to become a cocktail waitress after grad school and try to figure this out. So I went to Washington, D.C., and I got an internship. I did consulting on the side and just kind of figuring out what was going on. Ended up getting a consulting job doing private equity investment for startups, especially startups focusing on water and clean energy. So I was like, okay, this could work. It's a business model. They're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to scale it. Awesome. So while I was there, these two worlds for me clicked so well because these were people working 40, 60, 70 hours a week for almost no pay to try to figure out how to sustainably solve a problem and scale it. That's sustainable economic development. Because now you can say, we sustain ourselves and any sponsorship, donorship, or whatever else we get is a buffer. And it allows us to play or do research and development and all of that. But in a downturn, we're still keeping our core mission and purpose and solving the problem. And not putting a Band-Aid, but actually getting to the cause. So that's where everything clicked for me. I was like, aha, this is it. So I'm like, okay, now what? How do I do this? How do I start even getting into that world? So I called up a friend so I played water polo for UCF. And the water polo captain is one of my best friends. And so she was like, hey, there's everything that you're saying, there's an opportunity to work for ICOR, which is a National Science Foundation program that helps commercialize intellectual property. And pretty much what it is that Congress gives a lot of money to the National Science Foundation. The National Science Foundation does a lot of grants and research and development and all of that. So Congress was like, hey, what is our return on investment from all of these millions of dollars that we give you? And the answer of knowledge was not good enough. So they're like, okay, so these researchers are getting this money. They're figuring out things that may be relevant, maybe not. And then they're publishing papers, they're putting it on a shelf, and that's it. So what's the value of that in the long term? So that's where ICOR came in. And they're like, okay, let's do it the startup way. Let's figure out what value the market and the world sees of this and start doing it in a startup mode. See what the value proposition is for that basic research that they're doing. So I became the program manager for ICOR. That's when I got trained in all the lean methodologies, agile. Who knows about lean startup? Raise your hand. Awesome. I have completely drank the Kool-Aid on that. Love it. And I'll explain a little bit more what that is for those of you that haven't heard of it. So this is where I got trained, got to meet all kinds of people, trained over 120 research teams into how to actually do this. So this is what we taught them. And this is something that, like I said, I completely drank the Kool-Aid on that. And I love it because it's a business plan boiled down to 9 categories that lets you hypothesis test. That's all it is. So one example I like to use is a company that was founded right before the dot-com bubble. and then another company that sold for the same exact thing for billions of dollars, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago. So in 2000, who remembers pets.com? Who knows chewy.com? So it's like the Amazon for pets. And pets.com is the same exact concept as Chewy, but the thing that I believe that they really mistook was the assumption that people were comfortable paying online in the year 2000. Because that was their model. That's the same model as Chewy, the same model as Amazon. If you don't trust putting your credit card information in there, you're not gonna have sales and your company's gonna die because you need revenue coming in. So this lets you kind of put your entire business plan through a hypothesis test. So we assume that we know exactly who cares. And this is an entity who cares. This is the title of the specific person who cares. Why do they care? How are they going to receive that value? How are the customer relationships? How do you keep them coming back? So that's desirability. How do you make it happen? Feasibility. Who are your partners? What activities do you need to be an expert at? What resources do you need to make it happen? And then viability. How much does it cost? How much are you going to make? So doing that and actually going through that hypothesis testing motion de-risks your chances of success, or increases your chances of success and de-risks your execution. So this is what it is, essentially. Traditionally, with business plans and that kind of thing, you do a plan and then you execute. A lot of assumptions, just like pets.com did. But what this is saying, search first. So learn about your market, learn about your customers, learn where they are, why they do that. How do they currently fix the problem that you're trying to fix for them? And then figure out, how do I integrate myself into their workflow so that it's seamless for them? Instead of having to do a completely different platform or whatever it may be, that may be a huge pain point for them. They're like, I don't want another thing like that. So have them tell you. And the way you do this is getting out of the building and actually understanding what is the actual situation. So Albert Einstein said that if he had 1 hour to work on a problem, he would spend 55 minutes understanding the problem and 5 minutes coming up with a solution. So once you truly understand the problem, then you can actually address the solution to truly match the pains that your customer have, the jobs they have to be done, so physical activities, and then what do they already benefit from that so you don't take it away. If you understand that and put it into your business plan and how everything works, which means you don't have to do everything that's in here, like you have partners and things like that, but how does the whole model work? And then come up with a solution. So I've worked with companies that don't have a product. They just do a landing page and say, hey, you describe what the product is and what problems it solves and all of that. And then when you click on it, it says, not yet, but sign up and we'll let you know once it's ready. So now you're building up an email list. Show that to an investor. That'll catch their eye. So, because nobody cares what you think. So essentially what I mean by that is we all have a lot of ideas and we always tend to say, hey, I have the solution or I have this idea and it's my baby and it's great. But at the end of the day, if you're not solving somebody's problem, if you're not creating actual revenue or value, and then a model that truly works and you can grow, the way that you do that and how you do it and what you think and what your perspective is on your idea doesn't truly matter. So the point is, understand what the pain points are in the community, what your customers truly want, and that's what they care about. Nobody cares about how the drill puts the hole in the wall. You just want the hole in the wall. That's what this is.